Good evening and welcome to the city property meeting of the Fitchburg City Council. I now call this meeting to order. Please be advised that FATV is conducting an audio and video recording of this meeting for public broadcast. This meeting is taking place in the West Meeting Hall in the City Hall in Fitchburg. I ask that anyone else in the audience who is recording this meeting to please identify themselves for the record now by standing and stating their name and address.
I'm recording voice,
Okay.
audio.
Thank you. At this time, I ask that electronic devices be placed into silent mode. We don't have a flag, so we're just going to move along. The public has been advised to contact the city clerk's office regarding comments of more than 2 minutes. No comments have been brought to our attention at this time. Seeing no one who wishes to speak. Councilor Van Havingen, did you wish to speak now or?
Whatever you would like, I can speak now, or I can wait till the individual hearings.
I think that sounds clearer. All right, seeing no one wish to speak, we will now move on to our agenda. So our agenda, which is on the chair by the door, begins with agenda item 102-23, order that whereas the city issued a request for proposals regarding 260 Rollstone Street, whereas 260 Rollstone Street contains the vacant Laurel Street School building and the former site of the Rollstone Street School, now vacant land, conveyed by the Fitchburg School Department to the city of Fitchburg, whereas the second request for proposal was responded to by Sene Incorporated, whereas the proposal indicates Sene Incorporated will purchase the property for $1,000 and redevelop this property into 20 units of housing. Now, wherefore, it is ordered and voted that the Honorable Mayor, Stephen L. DiNatale, is hereby authorized on behalf of the city of Fitchburg to execute and accept the response to the request for proposal and to sign any and all documents and to take any and all other acts necessary, convenient, and helpful to facilitate the transfer of this property to Sene Incorporated on terms consistent with or substantially similar to that of the response to the request for proposal. And I believe there we are. So I'm going to ask, we haven't had I think the last few meetings, we haven't had RFPs in the room. So shall we ask Mr. Sene to begin? Or would you like to?
Yeah, I mean, I can preface that with, the city has put out this, put out an RFP to sell 260 Rollstone Street numerous times. I believe this is our third. And this was the first one where we actually had proposals that were complete and bona fide. We had two proposals. One of them was from another entity that had no prior experience in development and were proposing an extraordinarily large development without, like I said, without any prior experience doing any development. So we, for those reasons and a few others, we did not choose that proposer, and we did like Steve Sene's Sene LLC, Sene Inc.'s proposal. Stephen's proposal, which is to develop 10 townhouse units in two unit duplexes on the top portion of Rollstone Street, 260 Rollstone Street, and then 10 additional units inside the school building. And those will be for homeowners. Would you
Yes.
like to?
Yeah, please feel free. And again, this is a formal meeting because of the nature of what we're doing, but please, be relaxed. We're all here to, to get things moving.
I think that's the gist of it right there. Obviously, we're in the early stages of it. There's going to be a lot that's going to go into this project on all sides, city, our funding source with the state, and ourselves. So I'm happy to answer any questions you guys might have on the project or anything else.
Okay, Councilor Boschman and then Councilor Scalia.
When you as you're going to start breaking ground and start construction, and how long are you going to take it?
I'm not sure. Honest answer, until we have our funding in place from Massachusetts Home Builders, Commonwealth Builders Program. Until we have that in place, there, we won't be breaking ground or starting any work. So our financing would have to be in place, our permits would have to be in place, planning board approval would have to be in place. If I was gonna give you an estimated start date, would 6 months be a reasonable time frame for a closing on this?
Once you're financing, is your financing, have they given you any indication from Commonwealth Builders?
I mean, we have our application in with them.
Yeah.
But that's, a lot of it's contingent on where the city goes with this and the approvals from the city. So I would say before a purchase takes place, we could be 6 months out. And construction to follow on a timeline after that to be developed.
I thought you had when I read your report that we got in the package a couple of weeks ago, I thought you had financing from a bank. I thought you had that already.
No, that was just our pro forma.
Oh, okay.
That was part of our proposal to the city. So part of it is gonna be the Commonwealth Builders Program. It'll be in association with local funding, from a local commercial bank. Probably some of our own equity in it as well, for a funding package.
If I may, when we met, Sene and myself and our economic, Mary Jo with us, yeah, our economic development director, we had, Steve was unaware of the Commonwealth Builders Program, so this is a grant source that the state has right now to encourage homeownership. So they will provide funding, and it's at 2 different levels, depending on what tier of income a household has or the houses are built for. But Steve was made aware of that program when we met and then subsequently applied for that. So in his initial proposal, that information wasn't in there because he wasn't aware of the program. But it's a great opportunity to create housing at an affordable price.
No, my other
For the
question,
developer and for the community.
my other question to you then, does he fall into the guidelines of the MBTA or in that radius?
No,
He does not.
well, it's not Steve Sene, it's the location. The location is not within, I think it's a mile.
Oh, that's more than a mile away.
I think so, when you consider that Main Street is almost a mile long and the train station is way down that way. I think that's probably just outside it. We might be able to count it. I won't say it couldn't be counted, but I wouldn't count on it being something that we could count in our MBTA housing numbers.
All right, I yield the floor for now.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Australia.
Okay, so we have your funding, a local commercial bank, and Commonwealth Builders, which is this grant program that we're applying for the public financing portion. So that is, that creates a requirement for a certain level of affordable housing. Will that be the rental units within the school building? There will be a certain portion affordable?
So all of the units on the site are planned for homeownership. So there will likely be a condominium association that will govern the whole site, the townhouse units as well as the building.
Okay, because it said in the packet that there was going to be 10 condominiums, 10 rental units, but now we're adjusting to 20 units for sale
Correct.
in a condominium style with a home condominium association kind of format.
Correct. And then
Commonwealth Builders doesn't do rental, they only do.
So that's, you had mentioned Commonwealth Builders being allowed, for affordable, to make things affordable. Will there be a subsidized component for people that are purchasing if they meet a certain income requirement?
So Commonwealth Builders, like many development subsidies, they put the subsidy in on the development side. So they will provide, and don't quote me on this, but it's somewhere around $100,000 a unit if you will sell to homeowners that earn under 120% of the area median income. And then they'll do $200,000 a unit if you agree to sell to homeowners that are under, I forget if it's 70% or 80%, but it's somewhere between 70 and 80% of the area median income. And just to give you some context for what those numbers are, we actually just got the new HUD guidelines for income limits, and a household of one, 80% of the area median income is $56,000, and for a household of four, it's $80,000. So these are the kind of numbers we're working with at 80%. So, you know, you have to find this sweet, as a developer, you have to find that sweet spot where the home price is going to be low enough for a family, let's say a family of four that makes $80,000 to purchase, but they have to be able to be bankable, so you can't price it too high, or then they're not bankable at that income limit. So, you know, there's a sweet spot there for that window of sale price related to income.
So if you're selling a unit for, I don't know, $300,000 and you're advertising it for 300,000. Regular Joe can buy it for 300,000. Or if you qualify for the 80%, you can buy it for $100,000 less.
It won't be market, like free market pricing. The pricing will be based on.
So 20%
what.
of the units are available only to purchase by those meeting 80% of the area median income, and this is the price for that.
Correct. So yeah, so you know, if you have to be below 80%, you have to calculate what can somebody afford at 80%, and then you set the price to be something.
So they have to be bankable at their income level, and they have to qualify at their income level. And the program makes the difference up in a grant.
Yeah.
Is that?
Well, they make the difference up on the construction side. So they're basically subsidizing his development. He has to take less bank financing out because of the subsidy, and that allows him to charge less than he otherwise would.
Right. So what are the percentage numbers that are required for the 80%, and what was it, 50%? Is that what you said?
No, 80% and 120%.
80% and 120%. So what are the percentages?
Which direction you went in? Did you apply for all of one, or did you?
That is still not set in stone yet.
Okay.
We are still very early in the process with that.
Is that the kind of situation where all 20 units will be required to meet an income threshold, or?
In that direction. And if we had somebody that came in that qualified and they didn't need the program assistance, I think it can go that direction as well.
You would probably need to make that determination before you start.
Right.
Construction, right? So that would be like pre-selling.
Yeah.
However we can make the numbers work, I guess, is what the plan is.
Correct.
And so now let's say this plan's great, we love this plan, it's going to work, but then, I don't know, it drops off. If nothing gets built, it sits there vacant. What's the recourse from the city?
So when the city does sign purchase and sale, and then a subsequent deed with the property, there will be a clawback. So if the property isn't developed in X time, the city has the right to take it back. The question about whether or not we want to is a different question.
Right. What's that time period, 5 years?
And that's typically and I think it might even be in the RFP that we had an expectation of construction within something like 18 months or starting construction within 18 months and then completing around 3 years or something like that. I don't quote me on exactly what that was, but we would use the same terms, although I think to be realistic, we might want to have a conversation and look at, you know, how does this look? Does it look like you're going to get funded? What kind of time frame for closing on that financing? Does the state have? Some of that's a little bit out of our control.
If I can kind of speak maybe on both sides of it for a second. We would not be interested in closing on the property until we had a guarantee of a funding package. And that funding package is that, like that three-legged stool, so to speak.
Right, and that's the 6 months you were talking about with Councilor Boishman.
Exactly. So we would not be interested, I would not be interested as a developer to go in there and say, let's let's close on the property and we hope the best that we get funding. Absolutely not the direction we're going in, 100%. And I wouldn't advise the city to do that either, which you won't. You won't. So the idea is to have all the funding in place and have a structured agreement so that we can get to the funding. And then we close on the property and we have funding in place and the project goes forward. That's really the smartest way to do it from both sides. You know, like I said, we're not interested in, that building it's a difficult property, so we're not looking to absorb another liability like that.
Right.
You know, without a clear plan of where it's gonna go. So if that,
Yeah, I'm not sure that was my understanding, and I think that's something that we need to think through, just because the city then continues to retain that liability. If it takes a year and a half for you to get to a closing on financing that.
yeah, I wouldn't anticipate that the funding,
Mhm.
you know, would be, you know, much more than 6 months out.
Mhm.
I don't think that the Commonwealth Builders Program, I think they want to move projects forward. So I would not have, and there could be a time frame in that as well.
Yeah,
I think the structuring of the agreement is really, you know, kind of where you guys come in,
Mhm.
you come in, where the city solicitor will come in, is structuring that agreement, in all fairness, in the city's favor.
Hmm.
You know, it's gotta be on your side of it.
So pivoting to the number of bedrooms in the units, you had noted sub-plan for 1 bedrooms, 2 bedrooms, 3 bedrooms. Is that still the basic plan?
I would say the townhouses, the duplex style townhouses would be 2 bedrooms, bath and a half, that style. The building, we don't really know what it's gonna yield, you know, based on the layout of it. You know, but there'll definitely be a combination of 1 and 2 bedroom units in the building itself.
And a certain percentage will be accessible?
Yeah, I think we have to have, I thought it was, let's say it's either 5 or 10% have to be accessible, which would put it at 1 or 2 units would have to be accessible.
And the number of parking spaces required, is that 2 off-street parking spaces here, or is that just 1?
I'm pretty sure that you need to have 2.
Correct.
Yeah.
You budgeted for 2 in your plans.
Well, the MBT, if it was in an MBTA community zone, then is it just multifamily by right, or is that in the zoning ordinance that we've reduced that to 1?
So that's in our smart growth.
Right,
That's different.
and that's
When
smart
you're
growth
not-
doesn't extend out there.
Well, right, and it doesn't go out that far, but the MBTA communities will overlap the smart growth, but they're different regulations. So MBTA communities isn't, we're actually still in a process to be 100% compliant with MBTA communities.
Oh, we're not 100% compliant yet?
No, there's a couple of things that we need to do. And the first step is, and I'm getting sidetracked now, but the first step is working with a consultant to look at where our existing smart growth zoning doesn't comply, and then working to get into compliance.
Hold on, Councilor Bergman. Councilman Hassinger, would you like to speak?
Yes, thank you for the opportunity to speak. So
Absolutely.
the reason why we're on the third try with our Peters property is the Laurel Street School. It's 15,000 square foot brick building, terrible condition. It either needs to come down or be completely redeveloped. And that's costly, it's difficult. And like Mr. Sandy said, you don't really know until you really get in there with engineers, start taking stuff apart and knowing if you can even do it, let alone what it can actually do. So it's going to take a lot of work, a lot of investment, engineering and architectural plays to figure that out. So that's a big risk on the side of the developer of what can you do with that property. The risk on the city side is how the proposed development is structured, because there's really 2 halves of the property. There's the Rollstone Street half above, which is clear, that's what was taken down years ago. It's relatively level on the street, it's very developable. And that's where it's proposed to have the 5 duplex building, 10 units. Now below, we have the school building, which is exceptionally difficult to develop. And it's a big question, can it be done? Is it physically feasible? Is the building going to collapse in the next snowstorm? Or is it, financially feasible, just going to cut too much money to do it? So the worst case scenario in terms of the city is the duplexes get built on Rollstone Street and then nothing happens with the school building. And then it's condomized So that school building is a separate condo from up top. And the city ends up taking it back, and we're stuck with the school building where we are right now, and we have to tear it down, except we don't have the rest of that block. It's already been developed, because these are gonna be sold off, we won't even be in the same location. So if we are gonna sell this property with this plan in mind, we have to have some protection to ensure that the school's addressed, either it's taken down or it's renovated, or we need the whole property back, because that land up top has value. The school building has negative value, the land up top has positive value, because it's building the site. So we can't sell the whole thing, have it divided up, have the top sold off, we lose the valuable part, and then eventually, either through tax battle or clawback, we're stuck with this building, we still have to get rid of it, because we don't have the valuable part. So that's
How is that structured in the,
So the
that's a big question.
So the plan that Mr. Sene has put forward on page 2, for the 19th of January document, estimated schedule for permitting construction occupancy. Council Van Hazen, thank you. These were actually points I was going to bring up less elegantly in detail. But year 1, thorough investigations and feasibility plans, permitting and grant writing. That clearly would be for the Laurel Street building. Yes,
It's for the whole site, yes.
right.
And it incorporates that building as well, yes.
Yeah, school building roof and structural work, selective demolition and remediation, and then begin duplex construction is after that on the line. And I too share Councilor Van Hazen's views on the ensuring that there aren't 10 condos that are brand spanking new and beautiful, and the boondoggle or what have you with the school building, because I was actually on the school committee, and that was the second school building we gave back starting in 2008. So that school building was returned to the city in 2009, and it was occupied by our school building maintenance department up until maybe 6 years ago. So yeah, I mean, we've had it for a while, and it is highly visible. I like what you said about the, we use sidewalks along Wellstone and Charles Street, and then, kind of connecting that neighborhood more with the, the pathway over to Howard Park along Laurel Street, enhancing signage in the neighborhood and so forth, because the building is it's not quite an eyesore right now, but it's, yeah, to the knowledgeable resident is an eyesore. To the average Joe, it's, oh, that's a beautiful old school. So let me just ask frankly, so why do you want to take it on?
So I've lived in Fitchburg my entire life. I've built in Fitchburg for the last 20 years. The type of project that we're proposing is what we've been doing for years. Condos are what we build. I like the building. I like the idea of it. I like it. It's interesting.
It is.
As a developer and the creative part of me,
Mhm.
I can see something with it. For context, I should have looked it up before I came in, but 20 years ago when the old Rollstone Street School was
Still
up,
there, yeah.
I actually brought a petition before the city council to have that building sold. At that time, I didn't really know how to go about the process. Subsequently, that building fell into disrepair and was ultimately demolished. And the lower school building, fell into the same, the same kind of, same way. So I've watched that property for 20 years.
Mhm.
20 years, and I drive by it on a regular basis, and I go and I say, what could you do with it? And I've been doing that for 20 years. So the why part of it, I don't know. I care, and I'm a developer. I like a challenge, I like to go to work. So that's probably the why part of it.
Okay.
And I think I have an idea that'll work. I think my knowledge of the area, the community, structuring a project to go on there, to your point, it is a whole bunch of challenges. And, we have to have, the key is to structure an agreement that gets us all to exactly where we have to be. And I would agree with you. You do not want to have that building not developed
Right.
and have something else developed. that's absolutely agreed. That's the wrong way to do it.
It wouldn't work for you either, it wouldn't work for the people who buy it.
No,
It's fine,
and
it's
that's
there.
part of, that's part of, having the correct plan going into it is a big part of it. And having a comprehensive plan through the Commonwealth Builder Program, to help out with this is really a key to it. If you take a three-legged stool, it's gonna take a developer that cares. It's gonna take a city that wants to see something happen. And it's gonna take, in this case, it's gonna take a funding source like the Commonwealth Builder Program to make this work. Take one of those out of there, there's a funding source. It's there. They are ready to go. I don't know how much clearly I've been told by the people I've spoken to. They have funding and they are ready to do projects. The city has already taken the action for how long? A long time. Something's wanted to happen with this.
Well, and I think also, you've done gut renovations to 3 to 4 multifamily buildings. And again, the 20-year track record of creating housing, creating condominiums, is there. Councilor Squalia.
So how can we make sure that we structure this agreement such that it alleviates the concern of Councilor Hazinga with potential development of only the valuable part of the property?
So I would assume that we'd have the ability to put that into the deed, that the entire property needs to be developed, and it can't just be a portion of it, and you would tell me if that was not legal to do that, correct?
So I would assume there'd be some type of deed restriction, which would restrict the sale of certain units without the sale of other units. And the city would have to release something, some sort of deed restriction.
Okay, so can we approve this petition with with verbiage that there will be a deed restriction added to it, that the entire property must be developed?
So this, you're making a motion to accept the petition with the proviso that a deed restriction or similar document be attached to protect the city's interests.
Is that the best?
Ensure the proper development of the entire site.
Okay,
Is that the best? Yes, I would like to make that motion.
okay, but I just want to get the words here. Okay, make a motion to accept the petition.
Well, first to amend,
Okay, to amend.
a move to amend the petition to include a deed restriction or whatever mechanism such that the entire property must be developed or
Or return to the city.
returned to the city.
So that the entire property be developed. Okay, motion to amend the petition to include a deed restriction or whatever mechanism needed so that the entire property be developed.
Before I make before I vote on that petition, that motion,
Yeah,
I'd like to ask him a question of this.
yep, go ahead.
Is the young man going to maintain this property while we're waiting? And when I mean cut the overgrowth and take care of the trash and all that on that corner lot, since the property is being sold to him.
So can I ask you a clarifying question? Are you talking about once he owns it or while it's under purchase and sale?
Well, it's a need versus, you know it and I know it. And everybody knows here, we're voting on something, he's guaranteed that he's gonna get it. So, in all fairness to the residents up there, the overgrowth is bad. You know that. And there's trash up there.
I can't speak for Mr. Sene about whether or not he'd be willing to take on any clearance of overgrowth when the city builds.
Yeah, and I'd like to echo that. It's not his responsibility until it's his responsibility. Unfortunately, it's our responsibility. So I don't think there's much we can add apart from.
Well, let me ask another question to the community development person. Which you'd be around, let it sit there for a period of time and they caught on fire.
Yeah.
Was he gonna come back to the city and say, hey, wait a minute, we had an agreement, even though I didn't sign the PNS, we get an agreement that you was selling this property to me, now the roof burnt down. And I want the proceeds to go to me. Is this gonna all happen too?
I'm not
Do you want to, Mr. Senator, go ahead.
What I think is the key to this is the agreement.
Mhm.
That's really the key. So however you structure the motion to do this, the agreement has to be agreeable to both parties. This particular case, you're writing the agreement, so you have the ability to put in the agreement whatever you like.
Well, we wanted to benefit both.
Right, so ultimately, in the end, we would like the building with the right funding sources and take the project to completion. Structuring the agreement, I'm gonna say that not that there's small points, Council Bolton, but something like if the building burns, where do the proceeds go? City solicitor can structure that into an agreement. Maintenance of the property, I have to say, until we own it, we're not gonna maintain it. In all fairness, those kind of things need to be structured in the agreement, the purchase and sale agreement. And I think you have a lot of flexibility in the agreement to put those things in there to protect the city.
Sally, can I give a clarifying answer?
Absolutely.
So basically, the next step right after this is to draft that agreement. So after the city makes a decision and votes, we move to purchase and sale stage. The city has an attorney on their behalf. It's actually not the city solicitor, it's another attorney.
Yes.
Who negotiates the real estate purchase and sale. We move directly to that. We sign that. That has the contingencies in it in regards to say construction financing. It also would have a clause of some kind, I would assume, that if there was a fire, usually there's a limit at which the city is responsible to, return the property or that's all put into the purchase and sale on behalf of the city. And that attorney, I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but he worked with us on our previous two properties that we did.
It's the same attorney that the city treasurer's office uses for auctions. and side yard sales.
Mr. Senator.
Would I be safe to say that that agreement would come before the property committee? Or could it be structured that it comes before the property committee to be, for like a reading or something, or a review? Just so to your point that it's, hey, that's in there. I wanted how the properties to be developed, is it in there?
I believe we could share that PNS with the property committee members, if that is agreeable to folks that.
That would be nice.
You could see what that PNS looks like.
Yeah.
And continue to provide input if you weren't satisfied with what's in there.
That would be
I
appreciated.
think, the most transparent way of doing it, like,
Right.
and the fact that the city is gonna draft the agreement gives a lot of control in that agreement to the city, which
Right.
on the other side of it, I think is perfectly fine.
It really doesn't make a difference to me because she's the developer, she's the planning department, and it would be her responsibility to make sure that what we're talking about right here today, right now, meets all the requirements on the PNS, and she follows up with it.
We
not
just
us.
don't want to read the legal jargon.
Huh?
We just don't want to read the legal jargon.
No, I don't want, I'm not a lawyer, I really don't like some of this stuff that I read when they he and she and it and this and that.
So,
So I need a second on my motion.
I'm
thank
saying,
you. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Move to approve the amended petition 102-23.
I'll second that, Fred.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Right, that motion passes.
Good luck to you. I'll be watching it.
Yes, sir.
I drive by there every day too.
And we'll be sharing all of our information, with the city as we go along, so I think it'll be, you can pass stuff along as it comes to you. Excellent.
Thank you very much.
All right, let's call a 3-minute recess, and I would also like to shake your hand. Thanks for coming.
Thank you for investing in
3-minute
Pittsburgh.
recess, folks.
Take care of yourself.
We were on, watching the recent, no, it's good, this is possible solution to the problem, so we hope that.
That's one of the key things. Yeah, that's almost one of the most important parts of this whole thing. Is that
Yeah, I didn't even think about it.
No, it was a good point, Andy, to be honest. I hadn't really thought of
Thanks, Steve.
Take care, guys.
that.
See ya.
Talk to you soon.
191. Main Street. Real Wally.
Goes.
It was the big developers in Cleghorn.
Oh, I'll vote for
The big developers, that's what we need.
Manufacturing cannabis.
it.
Ooh.
Taking the easy way out, we're doing jobs. I'll have to go for donations.
Liz.
Yes.
80 Lindbergh.
So 80 Lunenburg, we're just fine, and, you know, other folks might be interested. This was the previous one in front of property committee, a while ago now, that's the.
The low income,
So that is also going to be, a similar kind of a project, townhouses, 18 to 20
Just getting water
units.
here.
Using Commonwealth Builders, the developers.
but there's like a
that you see.
nonprofit that's
Yeah.
leading it.
Worcester Housing
Yeah.
Resources, so we have a PNS with them, but we are holding off on the sale until, so we, right around the same time, actually just shortly after. The proposal was accepted by property committee, we were awarded a brownfield cleanup grant for that property. So we couldn't then pass that property on to them because we have to own it in order to implement the
Like
grant.
250,000?
250,000. We're
Ooh.
clean, we're basically, we're use all that money to remove soils from Pete's Battery, and so we're 80 Bloomberg Street, and so we're working on that now. They should be starting in the next.
And they can
month or
make that,
so.
that project even better.
You're right, it'll just make things smoother for the developer to be able to come in and not have to worry about removing the soils first and finding the money for that, so they'll be able to come right in once they get their financing.
So we're starting in brownfield remediation this year?
Correct. And we actually have another brownfields assessment grant that we just had a steering committee meeting for today, our first one, so we will be doing some further assessment and additional brownfields that will.
Adding into the list for potential more grants for
Yeah.
remediation?
Okay, sorry. off track.
That's
Are
okay,
you
we're
gonna
in
get-
recess.
I agree.
We're in recess,
Are
so.
you gonna get more money for the land, for us cleaning it up?
Are we gonna get more money from the developer? No. We didn't try to renegotiate their proposal because we got the grant.
Well, we're not gonna bring Phil in, are we?
Phil may be a part of that process, but the city is not spending a dime on this except for some staff time. Which actually I think is getting charged to a grant now that I can say that. out loud. So there's no city cost to us doing this other than time in extra time, which I suppose does have a cost.
All right, we are now back in session. Before us, we have agenda item 103-23. The city has issued requests for proposals regarding 491 Main Street, whereas 491 Main Street is a long vacant commercial structure taken by the city through a tax taking, whereas the second request for proposal was responded to by Leslie Colon and partner Roberto Colon, whereas the proposal indicates they would purchase the property for $1,000 and redevelop the property as a restaurant, function room, and 2 to 3 residential units, wherefore it is ordered and voted that the Honorable Mayor Stephen L. DiNatale is hereby authorized on behalf of the city of Fitchburg to execute and accept the response to the response for the request for proposal and sign any and all documents, take any and all other acts necessary, convenient, and helpful to facilitate the transfer of the property to Leslie Colon on terms consistent with or substantially similar to that of the response to the request for proposal. So we have Roberto and Leslie Colon present, also Liz and Nick. So who would like to begin?
Well, I can give you the quick version of we've done, this is the second time we put out the RFP for proposals for this property. The first time we had no bona fide proposals. The second time we had a proposal that we were very excited about from Leslie and Roberto Colon. They are looking to, open a steakhouse restaurant. After their renovations are complete on the first floor, and I think part of the second floor, and then a big open space and then some function room, office space, and residential units, 2 or 3 residential units. So, we really liked this proposal. And I hope that you do too.
Thank you. So, that's okay. So please, tell us, and just to begin with, Liz and myself were taken through the property last week, by Mr. Pelletier. And I remember that building from its glory days as an Army and Navy store, which had everything my childhood camp, enjoyed. But I had no idea of how large it was, and the fact that it's 3 separate buildings, and it's kind of a hodgepodge in terms of a layout, and it's got obvious, it's got amazing bones and some, interesting challenges with it. So please talk to us about your project.
Yeah, well, when I walked through the project, I actually looked at the structure, and it goes with the plan that I initially thought of back like 4 years ago. I was looking for a building that actually would suit that need, and it just happened to pop up. And I drive by it so many times, and I never realized that it was there. It was empty for whatever reason. And it came up. It's like I was able to talk to Elmer Melendez. At one time, I was actually partnering up with Elmer to put a restaurant in downtown Pittsburgh. We partnered up with other people. We were involved with Game On, so we decided to turn around and focus on Main Street. It's the concept is no different than any other. I say.
Gotta keep going just one second.
So, and any other Main Street that's actually been almost abandoned recently by whatever reason, factories leaving, businesses leaving. It's the same idea that happened in Portsmouth, New Hampshire. If you look at Nashville, the script that's happened there, how they came back, which is food and entertainment. If you have food and entertainment, and we actually developing with all the residents that actually coming into Pittsburgh, we haven't really addressed it. All of the other little areas that, that people can actually go to, but not focusing on Main Street. Perfect that Daughters is actually developing from the upper common down. The theater district, this goes with the theater district. But they try to turn around and do bringing, again, entertainment, I guess musicals, plays and stuff like that.
And there's a little food thing.
Yes. So the middle of Main Street, I always seen as a problem. And what we're doing is, the only way to describe it is I'm dropping a bomb right in the middle of Main Street. And we're not only doing this, we're actually starting across the street where we're developing that area, which is is it 480? 480, we actually took, of course, we actually brought the paperwork into Main Street. We actually signed a lease with Ted Harris, Ted Lapis, to actually put in another country and western venue focusing on Cajun food.
On the bar hack?
On the bar hack, yeah. And the reason why I'm looking at that is if you look at what happened against Crummy, that's crazy, but if you look at Duval Street, you look at what's happening in Nashville, you look at Portsmouth, New Hampshire, how it came back after, the fishing industry got hit. I think we can actually do that. Pittsburgh is a blank page right now. Main Street is blank. It's like, it's wide open for this kind of stuff to happen. That you have intimate, small venues that work together. That's why I chose State. I focused on State. I did my market analysis, for 20 miles. If you want to have a great Italian experience, go to Daughters. If you want to have a great experience, State, come to us. It's like, that's why I'm focusing on the next one, which is the 480, which is across the street. Country music. The bigger plan that I have
Yeah, there's nothing around.
is,
The country.
if I'm allowed to.
Oh, yeah, please.
The Main Street project is actually, is unique. The architect and structure is there. The way we turn on and tie it is actually the brickwork, because it's all kind of,
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't, it's a, everything's.
Right.
So by the same thing they did with Harper's Furniture, where they actually tinted the brick, they actually tinted the brick, they actually tie it all in. That's what we're doing with the front half. The back half is actually beautiful with the copper awning, the
Yeah.
entranceway. We have the beautiful staircase that actually goes all the way to the third floor, to bring that back. What we do is,
This is an addition?
no, that's actually part of the front storefront. By actually pushing the storefront in 20 feet, we create undercover outdoor dining. So right, so. Right. So and again, we haven't, because we were able to turn around, do our walkthrough, but we wanted to turn around and do a presentation as far as what we were thinking. So by pushing the storefront in,
Mhm.
we create outdoor dining.
Wow.
The open kitchen concept on the first floor, and then the dining area with a horseshoe bar. Now, this is where that back half of the building is three-story.
Right.
By putting a stage on the back half, this is for Friday and Saturday events, where we're pushing to turn around and get Grammy Award winning acts to actually come to Fitchburg. You have to build something that is worthwhile for them to turn around and come. We take a portion of the second floor just to give you that stage up feeling.
Wow.
And this is the conference area where we'll have different entertainment. I'm hoping for weddings. If we can have, be able to book a wedding on Main Street would be awesome. The 2 units, it's like, again, it's residential, but I'm actually focusing on 2 units to house hopefully the Grammy Award winning acts that come, because there is no 5-star hotels around. You have DoubleTree and Leominster, but that's about it. But you want to
Yeah.
cater to them. And that's why I turn on. And then at the third floor, that's where.
Like sweets.
Suites, yeah. But that's what I'm pushing. Some of the acts we already looked at is crazy. So we were gonna do a Game On, because we were part of the Game On, project up there. We thought that, but I guess there was a agreement so that there will be no, noise ordinance overlapping outside. So that's where that kind of killed that spot. But this right here, I think by bringing food and entertainment into Fitchburg, it's already happening, but we're dropping, again, when I say a bomb right in the middle of Fitchburg, I think we'll get a snapshot across the street. Because again, it's not, we're focusing for that 25 and up.
Yeah.
Because there's plenty of places to actually go out, that 25 and under. And again, it's like, I know it's Main Street, I'm considering all the noise ordinance, as far as the residents. 11 o'clock, we're shutting down, because again, it's like, everybody is actually, when you look at the restaurant portion of the jazz, because we focus on jazz, blues, student music, in this venue, it's like, it's a different type of clientele that we actually focus on.
Right, and it's also a different kind of amplification.
But it's something that I know it's going to. It's Pittsburgh, Redford, and I think it is, because even with our smaller restaurants, people, the feedback we're getting from a lot of people that why Pittsburgh? Why do we think that we could have a upper scale steakhouse in Pittsburgh? So my question is, why not? It's like in Boston, just because it's in Boston and you look at the area, it might be a really bad looking street, Because you name it's in Boston, it doesn't matter, so I keep saying, why not Fitchburg, even River Street, Fitchburg, yeah, I kind of laugh at people, because nothing screams restaurant. At the place where I'm at now, nothing.
Yeah.
It's like, but people coming from as far as Boston, Cape Cod, New Hampshire, these are people that actually, we haven't even marketed, we haven't even pushed it out there because we knew we had to go. We couldn't handle the volume, because of, there's just a need for it. It's
Nothing
like-
sounds like word of mouth.
Right, well, yes, and it's like, and what is gonna draw people from taking a left or right and driving 2 miles into Fitchburg? It's like, we have to have something to draw them in, I believe this something this would help out.
So, thank you. As the chair, I'm going to wait to speak until other folks have asked questions or have comments and. How's it been?
Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak again.
Yeah.
So to be honest, I have a whole lot of hope for this building. It's another tired old building that's been in for far too long. But the clones have a spectacularly ambitious vision for this, and I love it. I think they've done a wonderful job in their existing restaurant in a very limited space, and they have a vision to grow. And if they can pull this off, it will be absolutely fantastic. So it's not gonna be easy at all. It's gonna take a lot of work to get this done. It's gonna take a lot of money to do something like that. But if it works, I think it'll be fantastic. And the downside, if it doesn't work, we're just back to where we are now. This is what we have to lose. And there was a clear risk with the previous project we discussed. There's not a risk. If it doesn't work, what have we lost? So let's give it a try. I think if they can pull it off, it'll be not just great for them, but it'll be great for the city. And this will really be an anchor for downtown. It'll be a really big building block to help out the next project.
Mhm.
I encourage you to improve it.
And, okay, so on Council Boschman's first question to the first petition, what's the timeline look like, considering, assuming you get the financing and the agreement works out and everything's great and you sign the paper, what's the timeline?
Well, aggressively, we're looking at 18 months until I get it done.
Wow.
The reason why
From start to opening the door?
in January, when we turn around and look at the,
When we thought everything was gonna be going a little bit quicker than what it actually has, we had thought 18 to 24 months.
From January?
Now that it's taking, it's taken a lot longer, we actually in the interim have had to make alternate arrangements to try to move what we have now to another location. So I actually applied for a liquor license yesterday for 480 Main Street.
Oh, yeah.
Across the street to do an adult lounge there that would be more of a comfortable, homey type of a venue where the country music will eventually be. But in the interim, because we don't have space where we're at on River Street, we're looking to move El Toro to another spot right next door over there to give us the space until we can get Main Street ready, our other part of Main Street ready.
so when we're looking at 480, we're actually looking at the full entire 10,000 square feet. That's
Yeah,
actually
3 different
Right.
venues.
on the venue.
Oh, wow, yeah.
Well,
Where the old Premier Subs was?
Actually, from
Yes.
where Dagwoods was
Yeah.
to where Kingston is,
Yeah.
to where the office, where the bar was for Kingston.
That's big.
so it's big, but we also turned around and said we're gonna put a coffee shop in there, But that's what we're looking to turn around and do that. So when we turn around, so we're focusing on that, how we're gonna turn around. But for me, structurally, is to get the, be honest with you, I was a little upset. I thought we were gonna be 60 and I saw the snowstorms coming. I'm saying weather tight. I need to get, because I walked in the building and I seen the roof, it needs to get repaired. That front half of the roof, it needs to get repaired, needs to get addressed.
Was there structural damage due to snow?
Well, not normal. It was already water. It's
It's
water
raining
damage,
inside.
but for me, every day you lose, you actually,
Yeah.
the problem gets just a little bit bigger. So and I haven't been in there since the last time, so.
And that 3 feet of snow.
Right, so in my head, I'm already saying from the storefront 2 bays back now, we're gonna have to turn on reinforce it or, remove and put structural steel on it. That's what
It's wood now.
it's all with it. So, structurally, we need to turn around, get in there, get it watertight, seal the windows, and then we can start demoing. And again, cleaning up it's a lot. It's a lot.
You might even need that for floor
Well,
loading and fire.
the cleanup
Fire
and
separation.
the building, we already know that it's like we're allowing ourselves 4 to 6 months to actually get everything to the studs. Once we get everything to the studs, then we realize we can see, again, electrical issues. We don't know what exactly is in there, so we're assuming that we're gutting it. We're gutting it to the studs and the structure, the structure is what we. It's like, it's a beautiful building, because it is. And that's what we're looking at. The bones are, foundation's good, it's dry, there's nothing, it doesn't hit that water table, that's.
That's out of the fun.
Yeah, so we've looked at all that.
There's no brook running underneath it, like a lot of,
Those are different properties.
like a lot of those things.
That one, 491 is out of the fund.
Yes.
Yeah, and it's a dry area.
And so, the financing for this project is just solely gonna be provided by you,
Well, yes, we will bring in partners. Because again, we can't sell them or an idea. We have to secure the building first, and then it makes it real. We have investors from, and again, I'm not, the investors that we had that was gonna come out to the hotel and game on, are the investors that actually gonna back us up. And that's what I'm excited about. The money is going to come. It's private finance, but we need to secure the building first. And then again, the majority, we are financed. I believe there was a number that was 750,000 in 4 years, over a 3-year period that was committed. That was part of that.
It wasn't committed, it was what was written in the proposal, right, by the city, right?
what is that?
I'm sorry.
There was a $750,000 commitment that was in
The city wrote it that we were willing to spend $750,000 over a 3-year period on it.
Yeah, you'll need all of that.
yeah,
Right, and that was just adding up everything in your proposal.
yeah.
Okay,
So getting, like I said, it's important to get in there as fast as possible if we get it watertight. I mean, the roof is the most important thing, and we cannot turn around and seal that roof off. Even some of the windows that we have to turn on, we'll water them up, seal them up. Put some window, just get it watertight.
so back on timeline, Liz, with considering, this is private financing and considering the goals of the project, how quick do you think if we pass this, the turnaround will be for, signing the paper and transferring ownership?
For the purchase and sale and the actual.
After the agreement for everything to.
So I would hope that we could get that accomplished with our attorney within 2 to 3 months.
Okay.
That is somewhat dependent on you guys and the attorney, less so with me, because I pass this up to the attorney and then, I'll review things and make sure that the language we need in there, but then it's just sort of between the two of you, and I'm just kind of along for the ride.
Yeah, our attorney's been waiting for a couple of months, so he knows
Okay.
what we were doing with the meetings and, city council, then coming here and then going back to city council, so he's in a holding pattern, just waiting. So he is on board and he.
Okay.
One clarifying question off of your question, what you said, which city council meeting does this go to next?
The full city council, the first Tuesday in June,
Okay, I just wanted to clarify that.
Yeah, so we won't be able to.
not next Tuesday, but the Tuesday after.
Until it goes back to the full city. Juice.
Or
The fifth or on the
6th, June
I'm
6th,
assuming that gets approved.
7 p.m.
Then I can contact him the next day and say, start working on this.
And then that's where we come in.
Yeah, and Pelletier is great about making sure that everybody is rowing in the same direction.
All right, Councilor
I have
Bowman.
a question for you. You mentioned 480. You're gonna be moving across the street, temporary 480, Main Street?
I'm actually, well, yes and no. We would, the Matador is actually, is going to give you another snapshot, just like the El Toro did. If it's going to really truly work. And it's like, and that'll give you a snapshot. Because we're gonna focus on, and again, country, and actually trying to get, again, headliners, not just local acts, headliners to actually come to Fitchburg and play in Fitchburg. And that's the Fitchburg in a sense, I've been here 38 years. I remember Main Street and Main Street with Main Street. You can actually walk Main Street, go to the movie theater, get a special pizza, and go, go home. It was a cobblestone street with a horse gathering sidewalks. Main Street was Main Street. It's like we have to, I believe, she's been here all the way. I believe that if you put a restaurant, or we even thought about pulling a slice of it and put in an ice cream, old fashioned ice cream store, that people turn on and just go and get ice cream home. And that's it. It's like, it's a look, that place up there, the grind.
Isengard?
It's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just it's awesome. But we need more venues like that. If you need more little things, that even a penny candy, we were laughing, I said, well, penny candy. But
Yeah.
But these are things that we want to turn around and, you know, we give up ideas to the people that actually say, why Main Street? No, put a candy store, because Philly's a fountain, put a candy store, people will come.
And
And
my question, the reason why I'm asking this question, and I'm not trying to discourage the sale, but my question to you is 480. I heard, maybe the council can answer this, I heard the block for 480 Main Street's for sale, that whole common block. And my question is,
It was withdrawn.
was it John?
yeah, he does.
Because, and that, I was gonna ask you, why would you want to take away from, well, invest all that money at 491, where you have a brand new kitchen, and 480, because there was that,
No,
what's that barbecue place? There used to be a barbecue place where Dan Fowler.
TJ's barbecue.
Yeah, the barbecue place, there was a brand new kitchen, the city went right after them, to put a new kitchen in, and everything else, that whole block. I'm not trying to discourage.
I can answer this question. We walked the site, what, 2 days, 3 days ago? We actually walked the entire board, right from the top to the bottom. We looked at everything. What's happening with 480 is it's actually updating, and updating is like, you're gonna pay, I don't know, $800,000 for a renovation job. So I'm gonna pay $800,000 for a building that I'm gonna have to dump another $1 million or $2 million into it. Makes no sense. Now I can turn around, go into this venue. Got it, I got complete control of it. I have complete control of it. So I can go to the stud and I know what I'm putting into, not ripping something out and hope that it's going to be cold and it's going to be, you know, the city requirement. Now, going into the, and again, going into 480, the restaurant portion, it's already been looked at by the city. We actually have the city.
I requested a walkthrough.
Before we actually sign the lease, because we don't want surprises, and we also understand. We understand what we're dealing with. It's just the location is actually perfect to turn on it and take a snapshot of what's going to happen. And as far as investment and dollar value, if it doesn't work, it's like I have a 2-year lease. It's like I can get through it and I'm okay.
Oh, okay. No, I was just wondering, I was just puzzled, I said, because I know I read this thing, and I think you own a construction company.
Yeah.
So I believe your construction company's been doing a lot of the work inside there,
Yeah.
and in 491.
Yeah.
I said, geez, why not across the street with that, Elliott and the former Elliott's and all the way down,
Right.
and going in the back, and you get the Calvin bowling alley upstairs for more income, and you have floor frontage on the back side, where J.R. Pub used to be downstairs on Putnam Street Place. You have that place there, and then if you develop Riverside Park the proper way, you can close off that street and you have a restaurant here, you can walk out the back door and serve food to the customers. Right, sitting down outside, listen to music.
The surprises you will get from the building when you actually get into the building, the unseen, the unknown is too much. And I, like I said, over there, I know what I'm getting involved in. Worst case scenario, I'm to the studs. Well, to the studs, then I know I can turn around and build out. So we already know what that dollar value is. Over there, we don't. It's like, it just, if he gave it to us for $1,000, then it'd be worth turning around.
If you give me for $1,000, I think you have complicated. And both of them was going out.
All right, so I, looking at your, the background both of you have with the long history of construction and development and so forth, and then after touring the building, it occurred to me, you have this amazing background that qualifies you to take on something like this. I think your vision is beautiful. I think that you're in a very long tradition, which has been somewhat in abeyance, really since Center Stage at Fitchburg State University stopped having, entertainment into the theater back in the 70s. People like Roberta Flack and even Nirvana came to Fitchburg. We had a civic center with some very aggressive bookers who, made sure that those were filled. But we also had a lot of roadhouses like the Buttercup, and then all the way out to Devon. So there really was like kind of a jazz blues tradition here. And I think that your idea of creating a 2-level space will absolutely draw people. And I speak as a retired music critic for the Boston Phoenix and a theater writer for the Boston Globe. So I think you're absolutely on target with this. I'm very excited about the project. And I'd like to ask my colleagues if you would like to make a motion to approve as is.
So moved.
All right, so moved. We have a second?
Second,
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right,
good luck to you.
you are,
18 months, right?
Usually we're not at 24. That's what.
2 years from now, 2 years from this day.
Well, what I did.
From
If you tell me I can go over there tomorrow, we'll start working on it tomorrow.
I can't do that.
Yeah. That's it.
On as quickly as we can.
But I will tell you this, don't be surprised if I knock on the door, say, can I look?
Oh, absolutely.
oh, we will. Hold on a second. There was something I meant to mention, which is this, on the second floor towards the rear of the building, there is a really interesting mural.
I'm trying, because I want to try to save it.
Yeah.
So I wanted to bring that up and say that the Fitchburg Historical Society, people should probably come have a look at it. And there's a photographer named Charles Sternmoldo, and Charles has done all kinds of photography projects within Fitchburg. He photographed the interior of the old law library, which at some point will, come through these doors as well. So that we don't know who the painter is, but
We think we do.
we think we do because we know the timelines, like 1880s to like 19 teens.
Yeah.
So and because it is canvas applied to the walls, I'm
Well, the thing is on that side of the building where you're talking in that staircase. That's
Yes.
actually where that copper overhang entrance is on the outside of the building. Our intention was on that's the only part of the building that has 3 levels.
Mhm.
That's where we're actually contemplating putting our own residence, is up there on the 3rd floor. So if we did that access would be ours, but I want to try to save that mural. But there's also a few other rooms that were hand painted as
Right.
well.
Mhm.
So we haven't even found those rooms yet.
Yeah, we were trying to find the rooms and we were excited that we found all the original doors.
Yeah, we found a room with all the original
Oh, cool.
13.
13, 14-foot doors.
We looked at it and said, yeah.
But we're talking to the son of the previous owner. We ran into him and it came up in the conversation and he's told us all kinds of things about the building. But there are other rooms within there that have hand painted walls as well.
Mhm.
So those are things that I need to try to when we can get in there and clean it, find them and try to keep as much intact as we can. But I will contact the Historical Society because there are documents by the boxes in there, military records from families and things that I don't want to throw away. I don't want anybody else to. So I'm gonna go through it, everything, and get what I can to them too.
Okay, I'm at the Historical Society every Wednesday. I do ongoing, I'm the chair of Stratton Players. We own Lucy's Barn next to the Faith Club and the library. So we're working on that as a kind of a separate piece. But I'm at the Historical Society. I hadn't mentioned it to Susan Navarre, the director, yet, but I will. And I know there will be great interest, you know, in getting stuff off your hands that you don't need for what your project is going to be. But that'd be great. Let me give you, my cards. So.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Thanks.
Thank you.
So congratulations.
Thank you.
This is-
Give this guy.
I'm excited. I'm excited. I think we're all excited.
Thank you for the opportunity.
All right, good, good.
I need a wife.
This one.
Wife sounds
That's
good.
That's the room I'm looking
Yeah.
for. I call it the garden room.
Well, see,
Hard to tell. Even the one that's in the hallway, I consider if I have to work it, I put it.
Yeah, so there's a room, so the room when you go down into the corner, you have to go down those stepping stairs.
Yes, yeah,
That room definitely has a mural.
recess for
And
5 minutes.
it's very similar to this.
But the mural that's in the stairway,
Yes, that's different, yeah.
because I told him, I said, I'm kidding, it's simple, they can see. I need it myself, I want to figure out something for this. But that garden room, I have not found that yet.
So, yeah,
So the garden room, that's not the room that we saw.
well, so the question is whether that is the room or not. I think it's hard to tell from this photo, if it's still the same room.
Probably good to scan out the room. Spend some time in
We
there.
literally were walking.
Yeah.
Oh, it's
It's amazing.
amazing.
And I was impressed with how, like, there was the tin ceilings in the basement.
Yeah. Yes.
Well, see, and that's the thing, I want to have him take that down very carefully, because actually I want to either reuse part of it in the restaurant.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah.
Or I'm gonna take the rest of whatever we can salvage and use it in the third floor apartments here.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
Because there are
right.
some areas that it looks like it's
Yeah,
perfect.
yeah, absolutely, yeah, there definitely is.
So I told him, so this one thing, we're gonna be very meticulous in taking it down. Cause I'd like to use some of it in the restaurant, but I'd like to use some of it
Thank
in
you.
the apartment in the back. Thank you, look forward to working with you guys.
Thank you. It's gonna be fun.
Yeah.
It's great to finally meet you both.
Right. You too. Thank you.
Yeah, and let's talk about 480 too. I know, have you been talking to Mary Geraldine Bohart at all? Part of the walkthrough?
I think,
Well, Sean Michael, when he was in for my inspection 2 weeks ago,
yeah,
he said he was gonna reach out to Mary Jo for me to try to pull together the fire department, the building
Yeah.
department. Cause there was some miscommunication when I sent my letter of intent in for 480.
yeah,
Um,
cause I think I just heard about it.
I got a response
2
from
days
the
ago.
building department was something that really wasn't applicable for that building, so there was confusion. But
Okay,
I guess now there's no confusion and Mary Jo was gonna schedule something for us to try to walk through with everybody that needs to go, so I can make sure if any
because I was actually going in there
questions.
this week and I turned around and said, you know what, I'm not touching anything until. Let's have the walk.
Yeah, that's a good
I think
idea.
that's a very good.
Very good idea.
You know, I don't wanna get involved with a grease trap or an ansel system or something, yeah, that's.
Yeah, no,
I agree.
absolutely agree. I know there's some wiring issues in that building. You know, Kingston Islands have their challenges, in the building, so. Just, I wide open.
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
That's why I want
I,
to show that everybody.
I understand the point of view, and but again, I judge the person in front of me, I don't go by, and that's how I am.
Yeah.
But I'm very upfront.
I think will be great, and, I don't know if you guys have any connections with, I know like the Bull Run actually does get
Yeah.
some interesting acts.
I've spoken to the booking manager.
That's what I was gonna say.
I came on because I was gonna have him jump on board with us, but
Yeah. Right, because they, you know, they get an act that, and surely they can come to Fitchburg too, yeah.
That's how it used to be. I mean, you know, back when acts were, and I have we have a family friend who was playing in jazz bands in the 50s. And so going back 3 generations, so I kind of grew up with these stories. My father was a newspaper man for the Telegram. And, you know, there were so many clubs and people would come and then they would play the gig and then would go to another after hours bar and then they would play, and it was really vibrant. And so, yeah, and I've got musicians in my family as well who grew up when it was like that. So I want to thank you in advance for making an opportunity for students and kids who are interested in music, provide an opportunity as well as getting the out of town talent in for the really amazing mix.
Well, like I said, Fitchburg is,
we're excited to try to do it.
We're excited to watch.
Yes.
it's gonna happen. And like I say, I see Fitchburg in the next 5 years, completely different.
Yeah.
Right.
And I tell people, just tell her, Leominster has shown their hand on that. Leominster has, it's developed as Leominster's was with the cute little restaurants and everything that Brady's is actually the staple. That's in Fitchburg. Now we look at what's happening with Dario's. What we're trying to, I haven't seen, actually, I ran into the owner of Marijuana here yesterday. Again, I haven't seen inside of.
What is the cuisine? Do we?
Dominican.
Okay, like 5 people have asked me, and I don't know the answer. Thank you.
Well, Mama Juana is a Dominican drink.
Okay, yes.
And their website says Dominican something cuisine.
Cool.
But what I'm seeing is like even with Tacos Tequila at the very, it's a tough location because of it's over the bridge. It is tough, but if you give people, I see what's happening with the Hawaiian Style. I love it.
Yeah.
That they're actually playing.
Yeah, Mr. Lama.
I love it because it plays into what we're trying to do. Because what happens is you create traffic, you generate the.
And they go from this place to this.
Yeah.
We'll go downtown, we'll go to the cellar, then we'll go to the.
And that's what we're looking for. We're looking for something for
Exactly.
everybody's interest.
Right.
So you can go have your before dinner drink at one place, you go for your appetizers, you drink someplace else, your dinner, and then you go back somewhere else for dessert.
Yeah, it's not a competition, we're
Not a
working together.
competition, it's about working together.
Yeah.
And you bring people to a location as big as our Main Street is and give them places to go and things to do.
Then I do 'em.
You keep money in town.
Sure.
You get the circulation of people through, you bring, the more people you can bring in here,
You're singing to the choir here.
the better.
Yeah.
You know?
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
See.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye,
you.
guys. See you soon.
Good night. Have a good one.
All right, our final. Oops. All right. 128 dash 23 to the Honorable City Council. This is about petitions to accept as gift or donation as a public way a certain parcel of land known as Ethier Street Extension, also known as Ethier Street. This parcel is more completely described in the attached plan entitled Street Acceptance Plan for Ethier Street and the proposed deed. In support of the petition are the street acceptance plan, the proposed deed, the agreements received from authorities regarding damages, and the list of people who have refused to sign the same pursuant City Code 157-6. So in final support, should this petition be granted in order, we'll be prepared confirming the same. So we shall wait for Councilor Swalia. We've got Ethier Street extension here. Liz, is this you?
This was, I believe the Attorney Perry on this.
Okay,
My knowledge is somewhat limited, what I can tell you about it, and I'm sorry I wasn't prepared to speak on this tonight, is that my understanding is that this street, was part of a residential development from a number of years ago, and it was not accepted as a public street at the time. And so now, here we are, many years later, finally coming to accept this as a public street. And I believe that the city has been plowing. But, you know, plowing it as a public.
City's been plowing, city's been picking up the trash.
yep,
Um,
okay, so here we have, yep, here's Solicitor Pusakari's signature. Here is all the plan of it, the Townsend Street. This must be on your package in your computer there. So,
yes, so
okay,
I've got a backstory whenever you're ready.
yeah, absolutely, go ahead.
So in February of 2020, this was put to the city council, to the planning board. Planning board in February voted in favor of accepting 8th Year Street. This was, 2020, right before the pandemic.
Okay,
But then to just back up again 10 years from there, in 2011 is when the planning board first agreed to accept 8th Year Street. However, they had a list of 28 conditions. Okay, and so the list of 20 conditions is right here. But just to skip out ahead again, in 2020, they voted to approve it, so it went to city property and public works. It was discussed first in public works, where I believe this should be discussed before we make our decision, because
Okay.
we need input from DPW.
okay,
And at the, February 26, 2020 DPW Public Works Committee meeting, it was noted about the 2011 planning board with the 28 conditions. They noted that the conditions included the stormwater detention basin, which was done, paying $500 per lot maintenance fee, which was $4,500, which I believe was done. And then the infiltration and inflow work for DPW direction, which I'm not sure the status of that. The planning board supposedly still has $25,000 performance guarantee. And the problems in 2020 from the DPW that they noted, the outstanding issues were the developer has to convey the fee title, which is what we have today. We have a title. And then the cul-de-sac landscaping would not be maintained by DPW. This would be the responsibility of the homeowners. This was a DPW recommended condition. That doesn't seem to be reflected in our deed proposal from the solicitor and whoever parties. It seems like the responsibility of the cul-de-sac landscaping maintenance would fall fully on the DPW. So that's a question
okay,
for both DPW and the solicitor. And then, so it noted in 2020 that the detention basin had not been maintained in years. And when I went down there today, I spoke with some of the residents. They said that it was cleaned up last fall. And it is very, very much cleaned out. There were supposedly big poplar trees that were like 20 feet tall. They hydroseeded it. I actually looked at the inflow and, the overflow basin. It looks like it's in pretty good condition. It looks pretty good. And then there's like this top overflow drainage. It's like, I don't know, a belt and suspenders emergency overflow.
Yeah.
That's got a couple little trees in it, but overall it looks like the riprap is fairly maintained and it looks like it's pretty good condition.
okay,
So looking at the detention basin, from my opinion, it looks good. It looks good. And then the last point from the DPW in 2020 was that there was one street light installed on the project and it was unclear to them if additional lighting was supposed to be installed. So I haven't seen the original site plans other than just that one.
yeah,
So, I mean, I think we should research whether or not the lighting infrastructure was done per the planning board approval, what the planning board required at the time, because the DPW did have that question. And other than that, looking at the detention basin, looking at the quality of that cul-de-sac actually is in really great shape. Did you go down and look at it?
Yeah.
The cul-de-sac looks, I mean, the landscaping little island, there's a nice tree. It looks
Okay.
like they maintain a wall. It looks like they're planting grass and maintaining it. It looks in really good condition. So, I mean, I would not be against accepting this street as long as the DPW is happy with the structure of this agreement, especially based on other conditions.
May I?
Sure.
I can tell you that Nick Erickson was a part of some of the conversations earlier on just the process for accepting a street with the city attorney. So this was 3 or 4 months ago that I remember having a conversation. So he knows that this is happening. Yes.
Okay.
So I don't know if that makes you feel any more comfortable with DPW's acceptance of what it is.
That's not.
Yeah, without some kind of documentation, alluding to that.
Yeah.
Counselor Brochman.
Well, I talked to Nick Harrison for over an hour today, and I talked to Paul Fontaine about this. Nick Harrison said that the detention pond, he went up a few months ago and looked at it with none of the engineers, and it's susceptible, and they did clean it up, like you said, and I mentioned it. So they did clean it up.
Okay.
I made it very clear, and I like to have the record show, maybe you want to make an amendment to that. That the city, if we accept this street, have no plans of putting street lights in. The street light ends at 16, it stops right there. So if somebody comes into Sam's Quarry or next year after we accept the street and says, we want street lights up here because it's awful dark and the cars are flying up here and they can't see our kids. We have no plans of putting street lights up. None whatsoever, and Nick Erickson said he was okay with that. He had no problem with the fact that there would be no streetlights. He did tell me he would like to see the residents take care of the cul-de-sac. He would like to see it, but as Paul Fontaine pointed out, they did go in front of the DPW at that time 11 years ago, and they had an opportunity to say something about that, and they didn't. Saying
They meaning the residents?
the DPW, if they wanted this
Okay.
cul-de-sac thing up here in the middle, cutting the grass and that, they never put an objection to it. But if we can have the residents do it, because I'm gonna tell you honestly, they don't just cut the grass up in Laurie Lane up there at the quarries. The residents cut it because we don't have the manpower or the people to do it. All the time, all the money. But I also want to point out to the property owners that we ought to, as a city, start really thinking about development and accepting streets and start saying, hey, wait a minute here. We don't have the manpower and we can't take care of what we have. So if a development is coming in and they're putting streets in, we should make it known that we may not accept it and there may have to be private ways. Because we can't do it. We don't have the money. We don't have the money or the manpower. And I talked to Nick Erickson about that, and he said the exact same thing. We don't have the time, we don't have the money, and we don't have the manpower to maintain these streets.
Okay, Councilor Squillier.
So, it's not in our minutes, and it's just from my memory. But I recall, in the Public Works Committee in 2020, we were discussing, the issues involved, and there was an issue of a lack of funding that was required to be funded. I don't know if it's this $4,500 for the detention maintenance fund. I'm not exactly sure. I think Marisa Fleming might have been more knowledgeable about what they didn't pay and what we needed to get from them for payment to make it, meet all the conditions.
Okay.
So there was also a question on what that detention maintenance fund, where that is and how the city accesses it in order to take it over to
Okay,
maintain it.
I think it was an agenda one, but
so,
I'll make an amendment that if we accept this street tonight, that the residents know that there won't be no utility lights put on that street afterwards.
So I have not personally, I've actually been spending my time on 260 and 491 to prepare for this meeting. So this I did not get to myself. And from what both of you are saying, and the fact that Marisa is not here in the room, I would be more comfortable when discussing this with her in the room as the Ward 5 counselor and voting on it with her in the room as the Ward 5 counselor,
Which we can do at the Public Works Committee meeting.
which is next Tuesday.
Right.
So I would suggest if someone were to make a leave to withdraw, that might be the, what?
Well, we don't want to recommend to give it to withdraw.
Well, okay, then why don't we, can we table it? If we table it, we're just not going to take action at this moment.
Why can't we say, based on the recommendation of the DPW commissioner and the meeting, we accept it as long as they accept it.
Okay,
That I like. But before you make that motion, I would like to add another just point to this as well. So within our Word document, right, if you look on the very last page, right, there is the Ethier Street abutters not signing the agreement.
right, I saw
And
that.
there are 11 or 12 total, there are 12 total people on the street abutting the street.
Yes.
And only, this one says that they didn't sign the agreement, but it looks like they did. So it looks like 2 out of the 12 signed and 10 out of the 12 did not.
Right,
So why would you not want your street accepted? So I went and so I spoke to someone today and he's like, and I said, well, you didn't sign, I know, what's your address? I go, you didn't sign the agreement. Do you not want this street accepted? And they were like, well, we got this thing in the mail. I worked till 6:30. We got it in the mail on Wednesday. They required us to return to the city notarized within 10 days. So he's like, I worked till 6:30, I don't even know, the banks don't even, the company's like, I want it, we want it. He's like, but I couldn't even get it. And I was like, well, we waited since 2011 and then 2020 to now, and then we only give them less than 2 weeks to reply.
No rise.
Right. So
so,
I believe that's another thing that I would like to talk to more residents here than other than just one and find out why they did not sign it. And but I assume it's for that same reason, because I don't understand why you wouldn't want your street accepted.
yeah, I don't either, so, all right, so if you amend, if you make a motion to amend the petition to include the notification to residents that there will not be an additional streetlight, nor will the cul-de-sac, whatever this landscaped area, not be maintained by the city of Pittsburgh.
That's gonna be a tough one to say, because when I talked to Paul Fontaine on that, he says you can't put a set of rules out here and say you accept the plan, and then at the time, if everything's completed, change the rules, and now it's saying we're just gonna, what we have to do.
Because they
we have
approved it
to
in
take
20, because they approved it in 2020, is that what he's saying?
Yeah, because he said that the DPW they could have said no to this island in the middle of the cul-de-sac. And they didn't say anything about it, they just said, okay. And according to him, when they say okay, that means they accept it, without saying no.
That's a little fuzzy it's fuzzy.
Well,
I would like-
according to him, according to Paul, they accepted, they had all the plans, the DPW, they saw all the plans and they were right with it. That's why they accepted the street, so they knew about this, and they knew about this. And they did what they said they were gonna do, they cleaned it up. Pictures showing, you went up there and I seen it again today. And so they did clean it up. The only thing I noticed is that right here is 16, at this light right here, just at the curve right over here, there's one street light. There's nothing up here. And the wiring is all on the ground. And I wanna make it very clear, for me to vote on it, I don't want no street lights put up there, because they want put in there in the development.
That's why I would like to see the original plan from the engineering from 2011. Just to confirm whether or not they were supposed to. And if they were, then we should put that into words for acceptance. with the deed.
And I think as property, as the city property, we should be really thinking about a development coming in and accepting streets, because we look at the streets. It's self-explanatory. We can't maintain them. We don't have the money and we don't have the manpower. So we can't take care of them. So we should really think it's on the developments, we're gonna start saying, no, we're not accepting streets. Until we get our cash flows back in better, a lot better.
Is there any reason to rush this? Is there any reason we don't just hold it here in city property, go through DPW, have that conversation, come back to city property and either approve or disapprove?
It doesn't make a difference to me. We can talk.
But we can always dispose of it at the regular city council meeting anyway. It doesn't actually have to come back.
So the language for that is hold or postpone. So there's tabling, which is kind of a more permanent, that takes precedence over the other motions. I don't think we want to do that, but I think we want to postpone it. We want to postpone this agenda item for the
Well,
rest.
I would prefer.
That would be
to go to
holding.
DPW as a committee, because you're on it, DPW, I'm on a DPW, she's on the DPW.
And we need to let the clerk know immediately because that meeting is Tuesday and they're
already on the
gonna do
agenda.
What?
It's on the agenda.
Oh, it's already on their agenda?
Yeah.
Okay,
So we'll be discussing it anyway.
Yeah.
okay.
So would you be referring it to?
Well, we don't need to refer it because it's been
already on.
referred to both committees. It just came to us first, but really we need the input from the DPW, in my opinion. Because they're based on the
The
first,
same thing I'm telling you, that he said that.
yeah.
It's time that we stop because we got too much work. We can't do what we can do.
Can I ask for a motion to postpone this item until after the DPW meeting? At which point we may take it up in a meeting that we have just for this one item to lay it to rest, sooner rather than later.
How is that different than a motion to hold? I've never heard of a motion to postpone in any of our meetings.
Well, we have our own versions of Robert's rules. The Robert's rules, the language is tabling, which is the board is not ready to vote, we have a lack of information, it's a topic, people need more time to process or deliberate, or postpone. If the board is not ready to vote, there's uncertainty on when it will be ready, then the motion be made to postpone until. Now, if we postpone until we, what if we were to do this? If we were to vote, if we were to put this to a vote and say the vote were in the affirmative, no, then it would be a vote. What's your pleasure?
Well, so if it appears a motion to postpone is postponed to what?
A future date, and the date could be after the DPW meeting, the Public Works meeting, I should say. So we can vote to, and we have to do the notice on that meeting. I was gonna say we do a city property meeting like boom right after, but we also have 6 o'clock, 6 o'clock, we have council as a whole.
I don't understand there's a rush, there's no rush on this. It's already been delayed for 12 years.
Yes,
And it's the last time it's been delayed by 3 years, 3.2 years.
yeah, see, this makes me want to just like, yes, okay, so
Yeah, let's hold it or postpone, whatever you
motion
like.
to postpone,
Oh, it doesn't make a difference, whatever you guys want.
okay.
I don't care.
Motion to postpone, all right,
I'm taking it.
okay. We have a motion to postpone this item until after the Public Works meeting, and its determinations. Is that good?
Sounds good.
Okay, and Paul has seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
I believe we have made it through our
Move to
agenda
adjourn.
items, move to adjourn, do you have a second?
Second.
All in favor? All right, we are adjourned.